What's up, everybody? Big Herc 916, getting down fresh out. You know how we do it over here. We always bring you the special guests, and today we have somebody very special. We have Candy, hairdresser to the celebrities. She's got a hell of a story, and we're gonna get into it. Candy, tell those people a little bit about like where you're from and how you grew up.
Well, I'm from two places. My mother moved here in 1977 from Dayton, Ohio. So I grew up going to school in Los Angeles, but every summer I went home to visit my dad. So I grew up in Watts.
Wow.
And then my teenage year was like West Side, LA. I'm a West Side girl.
What high school did you go to?
Los Angeles High School.
Oh, wow. So was there, like, growing up in that era, is there anybody, like, famous or anybody you, like, crossed paths with and went to school with during that time?
Famous as like street famous?
Street famous or, like, a suburb? Because, I mean, LA is so many people that are, interconnected and related. I mean...
Well, Herc, I was that kid that made friends everywhere. Even though I lived in Nicholson Garden, I would get on that RTD, Richard T. Davidson, and I had friends all over the place. And then, my mother, coming from Dayton, Ohio, she didn't understand the rent here. So we lived in Nicholson Garden, we lived in Alpine Garden, we lived in the jungles, and until she got low-income housing, which we ended up landing right there on Vermont and Adams. So then I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness. My mother was, a Jehovah's Witness, so I just knew everybody. So, oh God, I met Michael Jackson one time at the Dodger Stadium at the assembly.
What was the Nicholson Gardens like back then?
Oh God, I mean, it was a nightmare for coming from Dayton, Ohio, because at night sometimes you hear those gunshots and you got to duck on the ground. You got to sleep underneath your bed all night. And then, I met Sherm Alley, when you see all the people that be on Sherm losing their mind, running down the street naked.
Wow.
But then I had friends all over the project, so I would sit with all the older girls and watch them braid, like Dee Dee. It's a bunch of girls that grew up over there, and they were the braiders, and I was the young girl that always sat with the older girls and watched them braid hair. So I think that's where I really homed into my talent of wanting to braid hair.
And with Nicholson, that was the same projects featuring Training Day, right, with Denzel?
No, I think that was the Jungle.
The Jungles.
Because we lived on August Street in the Jungle.
Okay, the Jungle. You lived in the Jungles too?
Yeah.
Damn.
Oh, yeah, my mother moved around a lot.
Was the Jungles a lot different than Nicholson?
Oh, yeah. It was a lot different because they had swimming pools, so we used to play the game, ring the manager door, and if the manager didn't answer, that's where we was going swimming at.
Oh.
And I think that's why I got jumped in kind of, because we first moved from Ohio, we really didn't know, so I would go outside, hey, my name is Candida, do you want to play? And they was like, yeah, come, we're going swimming. And I get me and my little sisters, and do you swim? No, we push you in there. You better swim.
Oh shit!
Yeah. So and then I just made friends with a couple of people. Tommy, Hattie. They were like 9 siblings, and we lived in the jungle with them. Then later on, we met them again. They was living in Nicholson Garden. So their mother and my mother were good friends. So actually, I think they still live there.
Wow.
They're like generational project people, but we lived there maybe 3 years, 1407 East Success Street.
Wow.
So when we lived on Success Street, I mean, that right there always, I'm going to be successful and I'm going to get off this street. Yeah. So that was that pole right there that always said Success Street always just stood in my mind,
What was one of the main things that allows you to kind of see beyond the projects? Because, a lot of people get caught up in just being trapped in that, and it sounds like you always had more that you were interested in, you were somebody that had a dream or goals or vision. What was the inspiration for that? I mean, was there, like you said, the older girls, were there somebody in particular that always had nice stuff that you seen they were moving up or they were going places, or who was your inspiration?
Well, my mother.
Okay.
My mother came out here to pursue her singing career in 1977.
Oh, okay.
So she used to hang out with the Ohio Players and all
wow.
different people. She used to date Ralph when she was young, and So when we moved here, it was just like a whole different vibe. But my mom was so beautiful. Whatever we needed to go do, she would tell us to lock the door. She'll come back with a man, and we moved.
Oh, wow.
So so my mom was just a straight hustler.
Yeah.
Even when we lived there, she used to sell handbags on the corner in front of the welfare office.
Wow.
And then she also taught us how to promote ourselves. She always, and then when she started hanging out with the Hollywood crowd, she didn't like it too well, so she said, stay away from them hills. They do bestiality in them hills. They do bad stuff. So, she was just really a disciplined woman, and she promoted herself, and she taught us that we had to work more than 2 jobs. So that's when at the age of 11 and 12, my first person, my mother's best friend, used to clean doctor offices at night. So she would pick us up and have us go clean doctor offices in the Ladera Center. Ladera, that was the first rich black
Oh, yeah,
people.
Ladera Heights.
So Ladera Heights. So she met some doctors, and they used to come and pick me up, one of the wives, and I would go spend time with them in the summer and braid their daughter's hair.
Wow.
So she would pick me up every summer, and I would braid 3 or 4 different girls' hair in the project. From the projects to Ladera, and so and I saw their structure, and they would play games in the car. And what's the one? The buggy game. You have to name the different buggies, different colors. So I think that also sparked my interest to have a better life. And she would always tell me, you're going to grow up to be something special. Just don't ever give up your gift. And then my father, he's my stability. He lived in the same house since I was 3 years old. So, and I used to go back every summer. And he retired from General Motors.
Oh, wow.
He and my stepmother. So he was my stability. Even though we moved a lot around in California with my mother, my stability was every summer. My dad lived in that same house because I have 3 brothers there. So, and then I have an uncle that worked for General Motors, so he used to fly out here and check on me all the time.
Damn.
He was an engineer for Chrysler.
Wow.
So I just had really good people in my life. Like my 5th grade teacher, Cynthia, Miss Cynthia Bailey. She saw, because I used to get into a lot of fights when I was a kid. So she was like, no, it's something special about you. Come, I'm going to pick you up on the weekends. You're going to spend time with me so we can just get you grounded. So I was always a child that, I'm an Aries. So I always had major energy. I never stood still. I always knew how to make friends. And I also knew the value of life. Even when we lived in the jungles, growing up as Jehovah's Witness, we used to go knock on people's doors. So I would notice in the elderly building, they would have stacks and stacks of pop bottles. So I used to figure out what are you going to do with those pop bottles? And they said oh, you can have them. So what I figured out was to get a group of 7 kids. We'll go knock on the doors, take their trash out for $1, and take those pop bottles off their hand. And go cash them in. And then we would make a candy house.
Yeah, you're a hustler.
I've always been a hustler.
Yeah,
always.
Yeah.
Always had to have multi-things to do.
Wow. Yeah.
Always.
That's impressive. The reason I asked because a lot of what you learn early on impacts you later on, and having these role models around you is life changing. A lot of kids. I get a lot of young people emailing me and messaging me, and oh, I grew up on your videos, and it's like a role model, and it's pretty sad because they don't have anybody directly around them to mentor them. And I didn't, I had people around me, but having that mentor, that person who believes in you, which builds confidence. That confidence translates into you going after your goals. Because you're not scared. And a lot of people don't have that confidence. That's why they never pursue things. And they just kind of I can't do this, I can't do that. But you were doing it. So it's just interesting to see that all these different people took interest in you, and you were able to have on one side, you've seen, exposed to Hollywood early on. So your mom is telling you the game, which a lot of people don't know. Hollywood, they think, oh my God, Hollywood is so, these famous people and this and that. And you were around it at a young age. And then here you have somebody else who's also a pillar, your father, who worked at General Motors, and your uncle. And, I just think that's such a valuable people in your life that makes a difference.
And then my mother, she was just so consumed with work and hustling. So I had 2 younger sisters. I was I've always been a mother. I had to take care of them while she was at work or whatever she was doing, And I think that, my mother, being Jehovah's Witness, they kind of brainwash you that the world's going to end at a certain amount of time. So when I would tell her my goals and I want to do this, what you going to do that for? The world's going to end. I used to go,
He's like, it's running on time. I can't do nothing. And like,
Right. But so I would go sign myself up. I would sign myself up for whatever was happening.
Wow.
Until they say, Candido, you have to bring your mother. And then I go, she's not going to come because she didn't believe that the world was going to go beyond. She was so caught up in that religion.
Yeah.
And also, I didn't believe in the world. Like, I bought me and my sister our first pair of skates by taking the pop bottles. And because we moved in the jungle, everybody had skates.
Yeah.
So I was like, Mom, we need skates. And she was like, we broke, can't go buy skates. I said, I'll be back. And then I put the kids together. Like, hey, I know a way to get me and my sister some skates. And I put the team together. And we had street kings. We didn't have the skates. But
you were doing it though. Yeah.
So I've never accepted the word broke, you can't have, or, those type of things. Because I always knew you can go create your way.
That's right.
So I've always been like that.
Yeah, I could relate when you say the skates, because I remember when Jordans came out, my mom's like, oh, those are too expensive.
Right.
So she bought me the Pro Wings that look like the Jordans.
Right.
And I wore them one day, and I got capped on so bad. All day long, they were capping on me. I'm like, I threw them away. I didn't even bring them home. They're brand new shoes. And I wouldn't save my money up. I would sell bikes and skateboard parts. Okay. And then I went and bought some Adidas from another kid. They were looking at like good condition, and I wore those to school. And I felt better because it's name brand.
Right.
And, growing up, when we were growing up, name brand stuff like starters, the Adidas, certain stuff, it made you feel like you fit in, like you were somebody.
Right.
And nobody wanted to wear, like, your shoes are the first thing they attack.
Right.
If you had on some Pro Wings or some Payless, something, man, that was horrible.
Well, even growing up, my mother, we grew up in thrift stores. So my mother bought, that was a treat to go to Goodwill and find a new bra or find some sneakers that never really been worn before.
Yeah.
And I always do when it was income tax time, because that's when she would pull up with a new bucket every year. I was like, oh, Mama got an income tax. You got a car.
Wow.
We going downtown. That's the only time we can go downtown LA and get a new pair of slacks for school. So, I was just taught, how to get through, make the best out of everything. Even to this day, I still make the best out of everything. And I also taught my children, no matter what, you make the best out of everything. It doesn't take $1 million to define your happiness. Yeah. You create your happiness. So I've always been able to create my happiness. Even when I met my ex-husband, because, he's serving life in prison. We lived on the run from the feds for 9 years, with that. And that's an interesting story how I ended up with him. But when he first met me, I had a beeper, 1-800-BEEPER braids. I was probably like 18, 19 years old. And when I first met him, he said, what are you doing, curb serving? I said, what's curb serving?
Curb serving,
yeah. I didn't even know what curves. I said, no, these are my clients. So he was like, wow, you had that many people really beep you for braids? I said, yes, absolutely. So I've always had a huge clientele, and I would always, I didn't have a car, but my best friend, Auntie, bought her a car, so I would pay her to drive me around and buy our clothes. We would go hang out at the skating ring on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Red Onion, because I braided hair. Yeah. So and he couldn't believe that I earned that much money. Even at a young age. I worked at Braids of the 80s. I worked at every hot spot in LA. I was there, or I created my way to be there.
And how'd you guys hook up, you and your ex?
My mother kicked me out the house because I decided not to be a Jehovah's Witness anymore.
And how old were you when that happened?
18, maybe turning 19.
Okay.
And so that's okay. She kicked me out. I said, come on, I got hair to do. So it was myself, my friend Paquita, Francis. We went and worked all day, got all the clients done. Then I had a boyfriend that had a weed house. Busted him with a girl, so left him over there. We caused ruckus over there. And then we went and hung out at the beach. I think, what's the guy now that's a big DJ on?
Big Boy?
Big Boy. This is when Big Boy was young. He gave a beach party, and we went and hung out at the beach all day. Then we met some guys. Then we went bowling. Then we went to go get something to eat. And then we was like, where we going to sleep at tonight? And then so my mother would kick me out. I used to stay at a little hotel right there off of Florence and Crenshaw, like 79th. They would rent like $50 rooms. And that night they was full. So Francis said, I know, we can go to my homeboy house. So we went to, it's like Crenshaw and Adams, knocked on the door and dude, who is it? And she didn't tell me that this was a crack spot.
Oh, shit.
Right. I didn't know it was a spot. So remember, I'm Joe Witness,
Yeah.
green, don't know nothing about this street life. And Francis said, come on, this is my homeboy house. She said, where's Leon at? And the worker was like, oh, he upstairs. You can't come in. Francis like, we coming in here. We ain't got nowhere else to go. This is probably like 3 in the morning at the time. So I did not sleep, Herc. I sat up like this all night, watching the people come to the door all night. And then Leon came down, which is John's brother, like, what these girls doing in here? And then Francis was like, oh, shut up, blah, blah, blah. She knew him. I guess she used to mess around with him. So he got on the phone, called John, get over here, some girls over here. And when I first met him, I couldn't stand him because I'm not even from this world, And so he was like, ooh, who are you, blah, blah, blah. Ooh, you curve surfing? You got a beeper? I'm like, no, I got clients. Get out of my face. And then Francis and I was like, talk to him because we can have somewhere to sleep for a couple of days. So he wanted to hang around with us, see, and at this time, I didn't know he had just got out of prison.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know. I'm telling you, I was so green. And then, so they talked me into, he like you, so we can get somewhere to live, I didn't even know how to use men. I was like,
he like, this is all new.
Okay, this guy like me, whatever, So we ended up staying over there, and then he said, let's go to the grocery store. He said, you know how to cook? I said, yeah, I know how to cook. And then so we went to the grocery store, we cooked, we hung out, did different things. And then on that third night, he said, your friend, you can stay, but your friends got to go. And that's when I got scared. Like, oh, no. And then, but that night, he didn't do anything. He didn't try anything. He was just trying to see where I was in my head and my goals and stuff. And I said I wanted, because I was just a braider. I wanted to go to hair school. He actually went out and found me a school. And then he said, okay, your friends can't stay anywhere. He closed the spot down. He said, this is our place right now, so we can get you settled. And then I said, well, we got an apartment. We need the money to get the apartment. Can you give me the money? Because my friends put me up to it. Oh, he gave us the money. So I was like, oh, wow, he was 7 years older than me at the time also. So, gave me a little car to drive. You don't need your friends no more. So he was doing the separation.
Oh.
Right? And I didn't know.
Yeah.
So he said, oh, yeah, get your friends this apartment. And then he came over there, he checked it out. He said, you know what? I just got another apartment on 21st, my first apartment on 21st and 10th Avenue. He said, and he gave them the furniture. He said, I'm going to put you over here with me. So he was doing the separation, and I'm just thinking this is this nice guy, you know what I mean? And then our first time that we, had sex or whatever, I just broke down and cried. So I really don't like you. My friends put me up to this.
Oh, wow.
Blah, 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 blah. He was like, it's okay. Don't even worry about that. At least, like, I like you because you're honest. And then from there, he just, like, became my protector. And I was living with him. And then my mom knocked on the door and brought the Jehovah's Witness elders. And he was like, don't come over here no more. She's done with that. So then I said, oh, he stood up for me. You know what I mean? So that's how, that's how all that happened. That's how I met my kid's father in the crack house.
And he was still in the game at the time?
Oh, yeah. I didn't know who he was,
yeah.
Really. He had just came up. My friends came back to me. He was like, oh, girl, we found out he just got out of jail. He's a dangerous guy. I said, well, he's not doing nothing dangerous to me. You guys just jealous. Because by now I'm driving his cars, he giving me money and put me into hair school. I'm in a whole different lane. I'm thinking I got my big girl panties on.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's how we met.
And he was like somebody so people around the neighborhood knew that this guy was...
Yeah. He's from Black Peacetone.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Monkey Man.
Wow. So, as the relationship evolved, I mean, did you start noticing certain things that became questionable, or?
Well, yeah, because he would disappear, and then I was so young, I would just be looking for him and whatever, and would listen to everything he said. I even tried to prove myself that I was I could steal and end up going to jail, and guess what? He gave me a whooping. That's my first time getting hit by a man.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then that's when he really started tightening down on me, and then I snuck off and I went skating, and then I came back. He's like, where you been? I'm getting smart, blah, blah, blah. Next thing you know, I got punched in the eye.
Damn.
And then it was just like things start going crazy. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And at the same time, I was going through a situation with this woman who I thought was going to be my mentor. She owned a salon on Western, and she was bullying me. And so it was just like a crazy time that he stood up for me, and the girl heard that he was my guy, and she was calling him a buster, so some street stuff jumped down.
Oh, wow.
So it was a lot of chaos. And then he found out, he thought I was running from the girl, and he rolled up on me. He's like, if I hear you run from this girl, I'm going to beat your ass if you don't fight her back. And so she had ran into my car, and then I had to fight her in the middle of Arlington and Jefferson.
You got to fight in the street?
Yeah, I had to fight this girl in the middle of Jefferson. But end up, 9 out of 10, I mean, how the story ended up is that it got really bad. And ended up getting into her hood, telling her to leave him alone, because they in the hood knew that, the 30s knew that who he was. I didn't know what I was involved in. I was so young, I didn't know what I was in the middle of, you know. But it was so much that happened that it got really deep. And she ended up getting scared and went to the police, and that's how he got a year violation. By then, I was pregnant with our first son.
Damn.
So, yeah, I even fought her when I was pregnant.
All over the hair salon stuff?
All over $70.